It's the Reier on YouTube channel. It is time once again for Second Helping, the show of choice for fans and followers of I'm still going to say it, Brent, of the number one league in all of collegiate athletics. I'm Travis Reier. He is Brent Beaird. Brent Beaird, of course, longtime college football analyst, most recently for First Coast News down in Jacksonville, Florida. Brent, also a voter for the Heisman Trophy. Brent, we're going to talk about some of that with Miami and also Indiana, of all teams, set to take part in that college football playoff national championship game Monday night down in Miami Gardens. What does the SEC need to do better? What must it improve in? Are there areas of football with the SEC that you feel like they're going to need to improve in to get back to that biggest stage in all the sport? Want to talk transfer portal, obviously. I mean, we're right up against it at this point, right? As far as the window. Some moves of note that we've seen. We'll probably stick more with the quarterback situation around the league as we do that. And then, of course, you talk about deadlines. Boy, January is an unbelievable deadline month, isn't it, in college football? Yeah. And that certainly is relevant to the future of the college football playoff in terms of what it might look like even in a year's time.
Yeah, the college football playoff deadline, I understand, is like January the 23rd, which certainly is not long from now, basically being next week. Now, what they're looking at is, do they go from 12 to 16, or do they even go to 24? Now, the Big Ten has said that they will play fair, at least for a few years, and that they would be willing to go to 16. Now, the committee will meet basically, help me on this, Trav. I think it's the Sunday before the Monday game, and they will discuss some things. But what we've seen in the past is the committee is reluctant to come out with any bombshells so as not to take away attention on the game Monday night. But you and I both know they've got a lot to do and a lot to decide. So obviously this meeting will go past Monday. But yes, it as you mentioned, it is a crucial next few days for the immediate future in college football.
Now, with either of these sort of approaches, 24, 16, what's your understanding in terms of how that could impact conference championship games? Because obviously, depending on how much you expand this thing, that's got to take those games into account. And we understand how embedded the conference championship games are, especially where that precious television contract is concerned.
But I think everybody understands that there's something that needs to be done. Now, obviously, your the options here, Trav, will be what? They would be to continue the way it is, or there's also been a little bit of talk about making, instead of having championship games, have it, for lack of a better word, play-in weekend type thing.
Yeah.
Or just do away with them. But look, I'm with you. Now, I'm not sure they do away with them. We also need to remember the current contract goes through the end of this decade, which frankly is getting closer every day. So there's a lot to be considered here, especially if you go to 24. But if the Big Ten is willing to compromise and go to 16 first, I'm sure that will be discussed. So the point is that there's a lot to be done within what, Trav, the next week, correct?
There is. And I find it kind of humorous that the committee, gotta love that, is perhaps taking into account the newsworthiness of an expanded field. And I do think it would obviously be newsworthy, but I think we're all kind of becoming sort of disconnected, desensitized in terms of how this thing is mushroomed from 4 to 8 to 12, 16, 24. I think a lot of college football fans, a lot of college football observers are just more like, well, just tell us what's it going to look like and we'll keep it moving from there. But certainly big news or bigger news could be coming where the college football playoff is concerned. We do know we have 2 teams left in the college football season. Those Indiana Hoosiers, 8.5-point favorites over Miami in South Florida. Did you ever think you'd live long enough, Brent, to see not only Indiana in a national championship game, but a national championship game favorite by 2 scores over the Miami Hurricanes in a game contested down in the Miami area?
Yeah, that's just an amazing situation, frankly. Now, again, as you look at both of these teams, I think the thing that really sticks out to me is how solid Indiana is in all 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, and special teams. But the thing that really is impressive too is Indiana leads the nation basically, in turnover margin.
Yep.
So that is extremely important. And look, Trav, the thing you and I have said is, and we've said this for years, defense and the running game, you cannot ignore that. That gets you where you want to go. And I agree, both teams have more than satisfactory quarterbacks, but I would still say of Indiana's, the stats are impressive when you lay them out, but I'm still old school enough to realize, I think, when you don't turn the ball over to beat yourself, that is a tremendous advantage.
Yeah, and Indiana, you go into this game trusting more than Miami, and I understand Miami's been great over the last 8 games or so. I mean, you look at this playoff run for Miami right now. You win in College Station. You beat Ohio State. You beat Ole Miss. I mean, it's very, very impressive. But there is a Miami that we have seen this year that lost a home game to Louisville and lost a road game at SMU. And, I didn't even think against Ole Miss, Miami played a clean game.
Yeah,
and I think that's still more what it's going to take. That and or Carson Beck's going to have to continue to play at a very, very high level. I mean, he's going to have to be like he was against Ole Miss, where he's like +4 in touchdown accountability between his arm and maybe his legs, like he did with 18 seconds left. I just have more trust in Indiana at this point. I think Miami's certainly capable and talented and has the players to do it. But I think it takes Indiana really getting away from who they've been. And they're a very mature football team. Miami is too. I mean, Carson Beck is a 6-year guy. I know we've kind of made Carson Beck out to be this Cinderella story now that, he's in the national championship game, and good for him. Had a really bad injury at the end of last season, his final game with the Georgia Bulldogs. So I get that, but this dude's been around for 6 years. Well, most of Indiana's roster feels like it's been around for 6 years at this point.
Yeah. Now Miami had 10 penalties in the last game as they beat Ole Miss. Trev, I'm throwing out a what if here, and I'm sure a lot of people have thought about this. And I thought about it at the end of the game. If Miami has, when they got down basically to the red zone, Trav, instead of having one play, if they had 15 more seconds, 20 more seconds, do they win the game, I wonder?
Oh, Ole Miss, you're talking about.
Ole Miss, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's conceivable. You don't like to what if it with the kicker too much, because he was Lou Groza good in the postseason. I mean, he was good against Miami, but he had a miss. He had a doink.
He did.
And that's no knock on him, because he had a couple of 3 other kicks that were big, huge kicks. So there was a lot of that. I know some folks were looking for PI on that last play. You're not getting that call.
No.
You can break it down frame by frame, blah, blah, blah. This is PI any other time of the game. It ought to be. And I'm not saying you're not right from that perspective. I'm just saying, show me when that gets called.
Yeah.
And that type of situation. And that's with a Big Ten crew in that game that didn't have a problem throwing penalties. throwing flags.
No.
The Big Ten crews, they love to flag it up, it seems like, especially in the college football playoff. But even that crew isn't going to throw that in that spot. So give Miami a lot of credit. I think, to your point, overcame themselves at times. Ole Miss, hell of a run. You have to give it up to Pete Golding and that staff that hung in there with the remnants of it by the time they got to Miami anyway. And we're going to talk about Ole Miss coming up here in a little bit in relation to the quarterback position, because we're going to hit on some of the key situations around the SEC that we know as of right now, where quarterback play for 2026 in the league is concerned. But what about it from the SEC perspective? Ole Miss not able to quite get over the hump and get into that national championship game. When you think about the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, with an emphasis on those programs probably more than any others, not being in this championship game for the third straight year, and the league not being there for a third straight year, is it just more of a case of the Big Ten and some other leagues have caught up? Is it this expanded playoff where there's more that can happen in an expanded field? Or is there an area with the SEC maybe in the last couple of years that you don't feel like it's quite been up to the standard it had been during that crazy run that the league had?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all those things, frankly. But I mean, I still think the SEC can go on another run at some point. It's not that they don't have talent, because they do. I think what's happened is some of these teams, and for instance, like Indiana, that's just appeared out of nowhere, frankly, in the last 2 years, which is particularly amazing. Now, again, there were certainly flaws in Alabama, the lack of a running game, the inability to throw deep, I think hurt them. And Georgia, and look, they are pretty honest to talk about this, and Kirby particularly talked about taking some real risks in that game. And look, frankly, when you're playing Ole Miss, I understand you having to do that. But I think that led to that situation. And then you've got the other situations to where, the league, I think obviously they lost some players interested in going to NFL, but look, I think the league rebounds, frankly, and plays a lot better. I mean, could that be? And we'll certainly look at next year more next time, but with Manning coming back at Texas and the players that they've gotten in the portal, could that kind of push them over? A&M gave us a little bit of look, but boy, they just couldn't do anything in that game offensively. So it's kind of a mixed bag right now with the league. Trav, I think the league is in transition, which delights certain writers that aren't in the SEC and other fans. But to be fair, I think about the whole thing, I do think they'll be back. Right now that they've got their share of struggles, and I think those will continue for a while.
It's kind of ironic. You felt like with Texas and Oklahoma coming into the league, it would just heighten the chances for the SEC to continue to live in that national championship game. And it hasn't really played out that way. I think it is kind of a combination. It's a different era of football, different era of college athletics for sure. And I think that plays into something that I also believe to be the case, at least the last couple of years, is the SEC for so long was a line of scrimmage league. And I don't think it's a bad line of scrimmage league in the last couple of years, but I don't think it's the dominant line of scrimmage league with an emphasis on draftable type of guys, like Jalen Carter of Georgia, or Jonathan Allen of Alabama, or Florida, with the run of guys it had there for a long time. Offensive line play in
Mm-hmm.
2025 anyway to me wasn't great
Yeah.
around the SEC.
Yeah.
I think that showed up in the playoff too. Ask Texas A&M. Texas A&M thought they had an offensive line,
Mm-hmm.
and then they got put in a
Mm-hmm.
phone booth, stuffed in a locker by Miami in College Station. So, you think about the SEC Jacobs blocking trophy winners for 2025. I don't think a lot of SEC Alabama fan, whatever, can tell you who won the blocking trophy this year. I mean, it was Trey Zoon the third of Texas A&M and Caden Proctor. They were the co-winners.
No.
Defensively, when you think about, when I ask you, who's the best defensive lineman? Who was the best defensive lineman in the SEC in 2025? I mean, I think it takes a lot of folks a second.
It does.
I would probably say Dylan Stewart.
Probably.
Still be the guy I'd point to, and he's on a bad football team.
No, yeah.
So, those are the type of things that, they change year to year. But I do think it goes back to it being a different era of college football because there's not the developmental process there once was. If you were Alabama or Georgia, you would carry 10 DLs that you felt good about from season to season. Now your DLs like 6 through 10, you don't know if they're going to be back next year because they'll hit the portal and be somewhere else.
Right.
So I think it's a combination of things. I don't think it's any point where the SEC needs to panic because Ole Miss was right there.
Yeah.
I mean, they were seconds away from playing in the national championship game. So it's not like there's this huge gulf now, which a lot of the anti-SEC people would like you to believe that.
Yes.
Georgia is still kicking itself about that Ole Miss game. Because I think to your point, I was pretty surprised because Kirby, after everything we had seen through this season about being hard to kill and we're a culture program, they didn't manage that game like they were hard to kill or a culture program. And give Ole Miss credit. I think Ole Miss made Georgia uncomfortable, and I didn't see that coming either.
No. Trevor, let me ask you this, and it very well may not have mattered. If Kiffin is coaching Ole Miss, and he was allowed to have done that, would they have won that game over Miami? I wonder, or did the coaches who came back from? I mean, I thought they did. They had a good game plan. They made a good run on it. Sure, they should have had more time toward the end. But I think the question needs to be asked: if Kiffin had coached them in the Miami game, would they still be playing right now? I wonder.
I don't. I mean, it's obviously impossible to know, but I don't know how much really changes if Lane's coaching.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So I thought Charlie Weiss Jr. cemented himself as a legit standalone offensive play caller, and how he handled that. Ole Miss was slow coming out, I guess, against Miami, but at the end of the day, some of those bullet points that you thought Ole Miss had to hit to have a chance to win that game offensively, they hit it.
Yeah.
I mean, Kejuan Lacey was basically a 100-yard guy on the ground, wasn't he, in that game? So I thought they were good enough. They came up a little bit short, and give Miami a lot of credit. They ran into a hot, talented football team.
Yeah.
And Miami certainly wasn't perfect either, as we talked about earlier. So there you go. A couple areas where the SEC, it'll be interesting to see how the league continues to evolve in 2026. What about the transfer portal as we know it right now, coming to the end of this window, Brent, and so much movement? I won't get into winners and losers necessarily because you still don't really know until you get into the season. But I think a lot of folks, when you think about the quarterback position, obviously look at it that way, even in January of the new year. And we'll work around the league a little bit and talk about some of those situations. You can throw in some other players, positions, if you'd like, but we'll go alphabetically and we'll start with Alabama because it was big news here in the last day or so. Ty Simpson did make it official. He is entering the NFL draft. It got interesting down the stretch there, didn't it?
Yes.
After he had announced that he was going to enter the draft, then you started getting word of offers that were being thrown his way by maybe Miami or Ole Miss or Tennessee. The quarterback needies as you look ahead to 2026. Ultimately, though, Ty made the statement that he felt like his legacy was more important to him than just about anything. So staying in the draft, Keelan Russell, we've already learned, is back for 2026. The talented first-year player. He'll be a sophomore or second-year player in 2026. Austin Mack, he is a Kalen DeBoer, Ryan Grubb, a Val going back to their Washington days. So he is sort of taking that Mac Jones and now Ty Simpson route, Jalen Milroe of biding his time, waiting his turn. So I guess it's looking like a competition between those talented pair of passers coming up here in the next few months.
Yeah, and I think a mixed bag for Alabama, as you mentioned. Certainly losing James Smith, Quay Russo on defense to Ohio State, but getting back Keon Sabb, and then Pierre coming back and Bray Hubbard, several big pieces that return. I think that's certainly important for Alabama. I think what I'm going to be very interested in, and again, we'll count this as a rumor until it happens, but Bama making changes, say at the O-line coach, strength, special teams, maybe at some other positions, Alex Atkins, Mickey Kahn, some names you're hearing. Again, we're not saying this is going to happen, but that's certainly out there. But I am going to be very curious, and Trav, it's very obvious that Bama's got to beef up that running attack. Look, they're not going back to 200 yards a game, but you've got to make 125, 150 yards a game just keep defensive honest, right?
Yeah, it's got to be more than just complimentary at the most minimal level. I mean, it's got to be capable. It's got to be efficient. You don't have to run it 50 times a game, but if you run it 25, it needs to matter when you do run it. So, yeah, Keelan Russell is a very talented young guy. That's going to be a great competition to watch play out. Austin Mack is a 6'6", 6'7" type of passer. Pretty good athlete for his size. Saw him a little bit in the Rose Bowl after Ty Simpson was forced out of that game against Indiana. Russell's star, though, the potential for it to burn very, very bright is going to be perhaps tough to keep off the field. I think Austin Mack can give him a run, though.
Sure.
And it was Austin Mack, actually, again, that was next guy in at the end of the season, more so than it was Keelan Russell. We'll see how that plays out in Tuscaloosa. Auburn, Alex Golish bringing up the quarterback room from Tampa, right? Byron Brown makes a lot of sense. Byron Brown is a handful in that offense. And tempo, run game, he is a dude with size. He's athletic. He is not afraid to run with power when it's called upon. And even Lachlan Hewlett, the backup coming up from USF too. So some changes, as you might expect. Auburn with a big number of guys in the portal. We saw Cam Coleman eventually land at Texas. So, fascinating few weeks here for the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, and Malcolm Simmons going to Texas Tech, we understand, which is interesting. You mentioned Deuce Knight going from Auburn to Ole Miss. So, all kinds of transition there is. And look, that's one thing we see is when coaches go from one school to the other, they bring a lot of players over with them. And obviously when you bring guys you're familiar with, that will help. Now, Auburn still has a ways to go, but I think they probably feel okay about what they've done so far.
Yeah, I think that I said this before. I like these new coaches bringing their guys with them.
Yeah.
Not just because they can fill holes on the roster and on the depth chart, but, day in and day out, they already understand what the expectation is for that head coach. And so it's not just you preaching it as a coach or a coaching staff. You got players in meetings, on the practice field, in workouts, that are demonstrating it essentially on a consistent basis. The Arkansas Razorbacks, Taylon Green era comes to an end. KJ Jackson, the redshirt sophomore, it looks like. We saw him late in the season, I guess, Brent. Ryan Silverfield taking over there. But Silverfield did bring one of his guys along with him, and A.J. Hill from Memphis. So we'll see how that works. Florida, this is interesting. Austin Philo coming down to Gainesville with Georgia Tech, or former Georgia Tech offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner. Of course, Faulkner now the OC for John Summerall there in Gainesville. And I guess it's been made clear to Tramel Jones, who was brought in by the previous staff, that there is going to be a legitimate competition. There needs to be, because DJ Lagway has made his way apparently to Waco, Texas. Brent.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I think Florida got some pretty good pickups. Now, some of the Florida fans I hear from, and I'm sure you do too, is, okay, tell me about all these guys that they're coming from Tulane and Baylor and James Madison and Kentucky and Georgia Tech. Well, the reality is they're good players everywhere. Now they've got, again, a couple of guys from Penn State. Trav, I'm fascinated by Eric Singleton, the wide receiver from Auburn, going to Florida, and what he's going to be able to do. And look, people need to understand that, and I think a lot of them do, is Georgia Tech's been really good as of late. So obviously they lost some players. Everybody does, but I think what Florida does is been, frankly, pretty impressive.
No, I think between the retention, guys like Jaden Ball, Dallas Wilson, I mean, some of their big name guys, they've been able to keep enough of those guys and then mix in some of these transfers. And anyone that would point to previous stops for a lot of these guys, I just say Indiana, because
really,
it's not just recruiting rankings for Indiana, it's transfer portal rankings for Indiana. They weren't top 5, I don't think, in transfer portal. But man, I think as much as anything, boy, the quest to get old and then stay old with your roster. And I understand that people hear that and say, well, these COVID 6-year guys and 7th-year guys and additional eligibility stuff, it's about to dry up. Well, I guess we're hearing here in the last few days, right, that, I mean, we could essentially be going to 5 for 5 years to play 5, because the redshirt rule, my understanding is it's going to go to 9 games. You're going to be able to play in 9 games in redshirt. I mean, if that happens, we're essentially at 5 to play 5.
Well, so
there's still going to be old dudes out there, is the point. And especially with revenue sharing and NIL.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of feel some for the 18-year-old.
It's horrible for the high school kids.
Yeah, it is.
And the JUCOs.
Yes.
I mean, the only thing I would say about JUCO is apparently you can sue the NCAA if you go to JUCO and still keep those 2 years. So, that's what I'd be doing if I was a high school kid and it was like, well, I can go to this D2, or I can, go take my shot in JUCO for a couple of years. Maybe I would go JUCO instead of that route. But I mean, I agree. I think Florida's done a nice job on the surface anyway.
And a lot more. And I think the thing we're seeing is that the and Trev, we've been following this since, or certainly been in the business since the early 90s. And what's really, obviously things have changed a good bit during that time. But the average age of these teams, Trev, I've seen teams that their average age is 23. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, look at the guys Carson Beck came into college with that are in the NFL right now.
Yeah, true.
At quarterback. And have been, and not for just a year. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Speaking of Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, you got the sense that maybe Georgia fans thought this was Stetson Bennett's next to last year when they won the first national championship in 2021. And then 2022, he came back and they back-to-backed it. Of course, Georgia came up short of that national title this season with Gunnar Stockton, but he's going to run it back. Apparently, we haven't really heard anything from him. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, not every player, not every program
Mm-hmm.
is going to be like SC and run tweets of re-signs of, the third team left guard coming back. But in terms of publicizing stuff like that, but it looks like Stockton is going to be back. I think there were probably people out there, Brent, that thought Gunnar Stockton was like a 6-year guy.
Yeah.
He just has that feel about him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And now there's some guys. Now, if you've heard more on this, let me know. But the Nate Frazier very possibly coming back. I know Monroe Freeling, the left tackle, is going to the NFL. And look, some of these guys, I get it. That's kind of it's time for them to go. With that too. So, but look, Georgia is a good example, frankly, of what you said. They've got plenty coming back. That they're certainly going to lose some, but all in all, Georgia will be ready. And again, we got to remember for next year in the SEC, it is a 9-game SEC schedule instead of 8. So bringing back experienced guys is going to be paramount for next year.
And you better have a backup.
Yes.
If you add that extra SEC game, quarterback sustainability is going to get ramped up, I think, a little bit, even more so in the SEC. Let's talk LSU. Talk about two quarterback rooms here in the last few days, boy. Sam Leavitt looks like is actually going to land in Baton Rouge after that incredible playing out in public fiasco from about a week ago when Damon Williams, the Washington quarterback, tried to back his way out of his Washington recommitment, and that went sideways. But it does look like after Lane made the trip up to Knoxville, Sam Leavitt is going to be QB1 for the LSU Tigers. I'll say this too. I don't know if enough people have talked about it, but Husan Longstreet, the SC transfer, a former 5-star who spent a year out at SC now, apparently he's going to come to LSU and kind of give LSU a sort of kind of an Oregon. Dante Moore and Dylan Raiola now. They're going to be out there apparently in Eugene. So you have to like it. It was a little bit of rough. There was some turbulence. Yes. But it appears as if Lane got that thing on the ground safely when it was all said and done.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And to your point, Sam Leavitt, we mentioned Landon Clark from Elon, who, look, he may be from Elon. I understand this guy's a really good quarterback. Ryan Staub, Colorado, too. But look, Trev, we know Lane's going to have multiple quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Now Nick Anderson, their wide receiver, is going into the portal, from Oklahoma, LSU. It just really never got off the ground for Anderson because he was hurt a lot. The guy I'm intrigued with your opinion on is Harold Perkins, the junior linebacker expected to go in the draft. I mean, my stars, when you look at his stats, and the number of tackles and sacks and tackles for loss are quite impressive. Trev, have you wondered about him like I have? What in the world would he have been if he'd been healthy most of his career?
That, and he went through some coordinators too, some changes.
Yes.
Which isn't all that uncommon in college football these days. I think he could be a fabulous NFL player.
Yes.
Again, to your point, health, you got to wonder about that a little bit. I think he can be something along the lines of, it just depends on where you want to play him. Do you want to play him inside? I almost feel like in the NFL, he's going to have to play inside. I don't think he's Micah Parsons-ish, in terms of size and versatility that way, where you can kick him out in passing downs. He might need to be more along the lines of a Devin Lloyd that has really come on for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had a great season in 2025 for Duval. But we'll see how that roster continues to take shape with Lane. But you're right. Lane's typically going to have quarterbacks. That doesn't look like that's going to be any different.
No.
I don't know. Sam Levitt's been around a while, and I still feel like I haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah, I agree.
To feel one way or another.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen him in some big spots play pretty good football. Texas in the college football playoff a couple of years ago comes to mind. But I'm still kind of. I think there's a lot of people that are really, really high on Sam Levitt. I'm kind of just somewhere in the middle still.
Yep. I agree.
Speaking of Lane, what about Ole Miss? This Trinidad Chambliss situation, getting this thing into the courts. It's a sort of a Hail Mary to try to get him another year. It doesn't sound, I guess, all that favorable for him right now. But hey, as we've seen, once you get these things into the courts now, injunctions, different types of things, you could end up playing college football again in 2026. But if he doesn't, we heard about rumblings of a big offer to Ty Simpson to go to Oxford. Austin Simmons, we know, has moved on. What about Walker Howard? Starts his career at LSU.
Yes.
Goes to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Goes from Ole Miss, dates Lane's daughter at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Transfers to Louisiana. Lane goes to LSU. Walker's back at Ole Miss. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. That's just amazing. Frank, I tell you one thing. Speaking of Ole Miss, their linebacker TJ Donnery is in the portal trial and got all kinds of people looking at him at this point too. And it looks like Daquan Wright, their tight end, is going to the draft. But look, to your point about Trinidad Chambliss, when you've got a heavyweight represent you like Tom Mars, I feel pretty good about his chances if he wants to come back and do another year.
Yeah, and Tom Mars does stuff involving the NCAA for fun, I think.
He really does, don't he?
He just enjoys doing it, know. So, man, he's pretty doggone good when it comes to that. You talked about Wright, the tight end. Boy, I thought he was good in the second half against Miami. If I was going to say anything about Weiss in the game he called in Glendale, it'd be I thought Wright was a guy they were going to emphasize earlier in the game. Now, he still had a big half and a big game, and it was very important for Ole Miss in that game. But, yeah, I could see him being a nice pro, no doubt about it. What in the world's going on with the quarterback position at Tennessee, Brent? Joey Aguilar's in one of these situations, kind of like Trinidad Chambliss, trying to stick around in college football. Levitt was in that mix, maybe Ty Simpson. Those did not play out that way. Jake Merklinger, the redshirt freshman, I know he entered the transfer portal. So, you think about, and I guess what you sort of fall back to with Tennessee is Josh Heupel, kind of like Lane, is going to have a quarterback. But as we sit here right now, is it George McIntyre? Who is it exactly?
Yeah. Well, we mentioned Aguilar, and look, a lot of people are overlooking at Aguilar. He threw for 3,500 yards this year.
Oh, they would welcome him back with a parade. If they could get him back, it's just it's another one of those deals where it doesn't sound all that favorable in terms of him getting another year. So then what? And with the portal being the way it is now, a year ago, if they were going to lose Nico, it would have been right now. It wouldn't have been later on, because there was that second window. But the second window also benefited Tennessee because they were able to go get Joey Aguilar in the spring. So that's what I fall back to. Even if it is McIntyre, as we just talked about, you better have a couple of three guys that you feel pretty good about.
Well, I tell you what, they feel good about Travis' defense, right?
Yeah, well, the coordinator changed. I know they feel good about that.
Oh, yeah. Easily one of the best coordinators coming from Ohio State, Penn State, to Tennessee. And look, they have, and it's probably even out by now, but Trav, they've made as many moves on the defensive side of the ball as they have the offensive side of the ball this year.
Yeah. What about Vanderbilt? Obviously, Diego moves on. We'll see what his pro prospects kind of look like.
Yeah.
but Jared Curtis, that was a huge
Mhm.
get for Clark Lee, riding that momentum of
Yes.
Diego and
Mhm.
the big season that the Commodores enjoyed. But they've had some attrition to their quarterback room too. And you got a Muschamp there, by
Yeah.
the way, at
You
last
do. Yeah.
check.
Yeah.
Whit Muschamp, son of Will, going into his second year in the program, attempted
Yes.
3 passes in 2025. It sounds like this is kind of a maybe a push it all in on Jared Curtis and go ahead and get him involved quickly. I would think that's the expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be fascinating to see what Vandy does. Can they repeat the season that they have just come out of, which is tremendous for them? Coaching staff staying, that's going to help them tremendously. Also, I know we mentioned Texas with a few guys. Hollywood Smothers committing to Texas, coming out of NC State. Thought he might be going to Alabama at this point, but he's not either. So, but again, Manning coming back. Tell you one thing, Trev, how good could Manning be next year if he improves the way he did this year from say what September to November and December?
Well, I mean, bringing in Cam Coleman and Hollywood Smothers,
Yeah.
and added the transfer from Arizona State too. I think
Hmm.
Brown, the
Yeah.
small sort of uh, back that came in from ASU. So I'll say this, and we talked about this earlier too. I want to see what Texas looks like up front,
Yeah.
because that's where
Absolutely.
you can talk about kind of maybe Arch's struggles early in the season. They weren't good enough up front
Yeah.
in
I agree.
2025,
Hmm.
especially relative to what they were in 2024. So I'm as interested to see that. So yeah, Texas A&M, another Texas school with a returning quarterback in Marcel Reed, and they add Isaiah Horton to the wide
Yeah.
receiver room,
Yeah.
transfer from Alabama. So
Hmm.
some movement certainly within the league, and some teams that are going to see each other too. That's what kind of makes all this interesting.
Yeah. Oh
Guys
yeah.
going from school to school
Yeah.
within the league, and you're going to have teams facing off next year.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also interesting. Texas got Georgia Tech D coordinator Blake Gideon as
Mhm.
their defensive pass game coordinator and secondary coach. Or Trev, or you? I don't know if amuse is a word I want to do, but
Did Will coach him at Texas? I'm not sure, but
good question.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good
Because
question.
Muschamp was there before. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
long before, going back to when he was actually the head coach in waiting there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When you wondered if Mac wasn't going to give it up, but yeah, that on the surface looks like a good hire. We're talking a lot about Muschamps tonight. We got Whit Muschamp, Will
Yeah,
Musch.
yeah.
Whit Muschamp. I don't know. I'm an old head, but Will played with a linebacker that you'll remember at Georgia. And I'm wondering if this is where Whit Muschamp got his first name. Whit Marshall. Do you remember
Yeah.
Whit Marshall, the
Yes.
inside linebacker for the Georgia
Yes.
Bulldogs?
Yes.
That was back in like the mid 90s,
Yeah. Yeah.
early to mid 90s.
Right.
I can't remember what I had for lunch, but I can remember Whit Marshall.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
I think
Yeah.
Will and Whit played together at Georgia. So maybe
Yeah.
that's where it
Yes.
came from.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I would agree with that totally. Yeah. That's going to be very interesting. But it's again, it just amazes me. I mean, you've got, and again, I'm not saying Manny's going to win the Heisman Trophy, but he's coming back. There's no big deal about it. That he thinks he needs another year. His dad and uncles thinking he needs another year. I mean, what a tremendous situation they've got. I would be very interested to see where Texas is in the preseason magazines.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Arch Manning, you come from a pretty good situation regardless.
Yeah.
And you're a talented young guy. You're in Austin, Texas. You're throwing to guys next year like Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to hand it to guys like Hollywood Smothers.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not a bad place to
No.
be.
No,
if
no, it's
you're
really not.
if you're Arch Manning right now, I'd say.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Brent, anything else before we get out of here?
Well, and I think the thing, I think we've done a good job in touching base with a lot of these teams. And again, right now, because it's in front of us, we're looking at the portal. But I mean, again, it's a combination of things. That's something I learned from you years ago. We didn't have the portal then, but you get the point. Is all this stuff, in keeping your more experienced guys. We're seeing that now. We're seeing these coaches, and look, the other thing that's going to be going on, Trav, after this portal closes, and look, it doesn't mean that it's not over, because obviously the teams in the national championship game are going to have a shot at the portal too. But isn't it fascinating to a degree as we see these teams come together, and particularly the teams now with older, more experienced players, and how the game has changed to that degree, to where and you've got different things going on with that. You've got judges making decisions now on players that just come out this week that no, they can't come back another year. I'm sure some of that's going to be challenged, but some of the trends to me are kind of fascinating. What we're seeing right now, as far as more experienced players than ever before.
Yep, no doubt about it. Well, Brent, as always, a lot of fun. If you got anything else you want to throw in there, go ahead
Yeah,
and feel free to do that. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up.
yeah, we will. And again, I think the main thing we're going to be watching is not only the national championship game, but where we go with this committee, as far as, do we stay with 12? Do we go to 16? I still don't think we go to 24 quite yet, but I understand the deadline for this, Trav, is January the 23rd, which is coming up real soon.
It's a week away. It's a
It
week
is.
from tomorrow. Week from
Yeah,
tomorrow is
yeah,
the 23rd.
yeah. So that committee's got a lot of work to do between now and then.
Absolutely. Well, Brent, we'll do it again real soon right
Good.
here on Reier on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. Subscribe to Reier on YouTube. Hit that notification bell. That way you're alerted to all of our content as it drops. And a thumbs up, a like for Brent and myself. We'd appreciate that tremendously as well. For Brent Beaird, Travis Reier, thanking you once again. Until next time, so long.